time right here, bright and early. This is the first week of our service time change here at our Prescott location and for you, our online audience. And so, how you doing? You a little tired today? Getting a little bit earlier?
You know why I'm so tired is because I spent all day at your house yesterday.
You did.
Helping you move.
Yes, he did. He did. Before the broadcast started, I was making a lot of like old man sounds, and the production team is like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm so sore right now." And yes, I did spend all day yesterday moving. And we got a wonderful house that we're going to be able to have more space for our kids. And it's wonderful. And
it is a nice house.
Much appreciated that you helped me move yesterday.
I woke up this morning and I was like, oh my gosh, that 8 o'clock service is so early.
Yes. Great 8 o'clock service we already had today. And so now heading into our 9:30 service, which you get to join us on our online church, and we're so excited that we get to just worship together with you today. If you're wondering who I am, who this is, my name is Todd, and I'm one of the pastors here. This is Austin, and he is one of the pastors as well. If you're used to seeing Pastor Owen here online, I don't know if you saw the last couple weeks, but Pastor Owen, his last week was last week, and so now he is done. And so you're going to be seeing a rotation of different faces on here, different pastors, different people that will be hosting online, and they drew my name today. So big downgrade for all of you that are used to seeing Owen, big downgrade for all of you that are used to seeing anybody but me. But they're on here this week, and I brought on Pastor Austin with us today. First of all, great job last week. For those of you that were joining us last week, Austin preached an incredible message, and that was super cool. But this week we have some amazing things happening with our teenage audience, our middle schoolers and high school. What's happening this week?
So I'm the youth pastor. If you guys, I'll just introduce myself. I'm the youth pastor here. I get the awesome blessing of just being a part of our youth ministry here at Heights Church. I specifically get to oversee our high schoolers. That's 9th through 12th grade. And we have an incredible youth director. Her name's Sarah, middle school director. She does middle school for us here. And so with the new service time changes, we have new stuff for our high schoolers and middle schoolers at the 9:30. Middle school, which is 6th through 8th grade, is in our youth building, which is a big red building on the Prescott location. It's labeled H3. They meet there on at the 9:30 service every Sunday. And then we have this awesome little section up front in our main services for our high schoolers, because we're all about integrating our high schoolers into our adults, because, you know, in just a few short years, they're going to be adults. And so our high schoolers get to all sit together in this one section up front in our main service here at our Prescott location in H1 at 9:30.
And I love that, because I think one of the things that the church has swung and missed on over the years, as I'm wearing my baseball jersey, I gave
nice,
a little baseball reference there.
That was good.
It's just integrating those high school students. And when students graduate from high school, a lot of times they graduate from their faith and don't continue. And I think it's because they're not a part of the life of the church. And so I love that our high schoolers are a part of the life of the church. They're sitting in there. And surprisingly enough, you think that section would be our boisterous and loud and crazy section because it's our high schoolers. Do you think that the move from 8:30 to 9:30 will be helpful in waking them up? Because what we've seen, they aren't boisterous and crazy. They're usually snoring. And so do you think this is going to help?
You know, I was surprised, when they said, years ago, and it was like, hey, high school is going to be at the 8:30 service. I'm like, there ain't no way that high schoolers are going to show up. But they did. They showed up, and they've showed up for years. And now I told them, hey, you get an hour to sleep in. It's at 9:30. And so now I have big expectations for them, because if they showed up barely to 8:30, now I'm like, look, you have no excuse. It's 9:30. You'll be awake. You'll be fine.
Okay. All right, good. Well, we hope they bring that. Austin, tell them a little bit about what we are launching this week as school has gotten started here in Prescott, Arizona, and the surrounding cities.
Yes.
And so with that brings a whole new season for youth.
Yeah, so we, at our Prescott location this Wednesday, we are starting everything all the way from kindergarten, so kids ministry, all the way through high school on our Prescott location. We have starting at 6:30, we have things for our kids, which is kindergarten through 5th grade, in the kids building here at Prescott location. Then in another building, H2, we have our middle school youth group, which is 6th through 8th grade. And then we have our high school youth group, which is 9th through 12th in our youth building, which is H3 here at our Prescott location, all starting at 6:30, which is awesome. We're super excited.
Yep.
We kind of switched things up for the summer, and now because school's back in, we are starting our school year rhythms.
Yep.
And then for our Prescott Valley location, we have our youth group out there starting on Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. out at Park Collective, and that is 6th through 12th grade all together. Super excited to begin all of that
and
this week.
And kids as well
and
on
kids,
that Thursday
that's
night.
right.
So anything next gen, usually we say birth through college and young adult is next gen, but if you're looking at just the school age kids, so kindergarten through high school, we're starting up this week. We have Wednesday on the Prescott location, Thursday on the Prescott Valley location, and it's going to be a blast. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So excited for that. Excited for everything you do with our students, and we have a lot of amazing high schoolers that are a part of the life of our church, and a lot from our community that come and join us. And so ministry is going to abound this week. It's
awesome. And we have some incredible leaders, some incredible youth leaders in middle school and high school this year. And I'm so excited.
We have amazing leaders. In fact, as we push this along, I'm going to let you go to service to welcome in our high schoolers.
All right.
And I'm going to welcome on one of our amazing high school leaders.
Perfect. See you guys.
Yeah, as he's hopping in and joining us. If you are joining us online and you're just showing up and going, what did I stumble across? We are Heights Church. We are a church located in Prescott, Arizona, and we are going to start our service pretty soon. We're counting down to the start of our service that you can view and watch with us and join in on the chat. As we count down to that service, we're just giving you a little bit of a pre-show and letting you know some of the things that are going on here at Heights. And we have Kyle Walker with us. Kyle.
And I just need to say, I don't know if amazing is false advertising.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if I can live up to that.
Well, he doesn't know that he's amazing, possibly, but he's amazing. And, you know, we all have things that sometimes we don't see about ourselves, but I need to tell him. But first, before we get into that, I just want to let our online audience know that my jersey right now, my Padres jersey, is probably offending you.
Yeah. Had I known you were going to wear that. True.
Okay.
I was brainwashed into loving the correct team, the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yes.
So go Dodgers.
So big rival between the Dodgers and the Padres. I've already gotten a lot of flack.
One-sided.
All right, we can talk about that later, but I've already gotten a lot of flack for even wearing this at church today. Diamondbacks are a great team, but I gotta be with my boys, the San Diego Padres, and him being a Dodger fan. It's a good thing we're brothers in Christ because we have that bonding us together.
Yes.
You know, but,
yes.
All right, we'll move past that and focus on our similarities, not our differences here. Kyle, can you tell us what it's like to be a youth leader? You've been a youth leader with a group of boys that have started in middle school, actually before middle school.
Yeah, back in 5th grade.
5th grade,
Yep.
Okay, and then through middle school, and then now through high school, and your boys are going to be juniors in high school this year?
Yep.
Correct?
So we're going into 7 years together.
7 years with that group of boys. 7 crazy years. Those are not normal years where people say, I want to hang out with middle schoolers and high schoolers.
Yeah.
What keeps you coming back? Why have you decided to be a leader in the youth ministry for that long?
Honestly, it was God. When I first started serving in youth, I told them that I wanted to serve with high schoolers. And I thought I was going to be serving with high schoolers. And then last minute, they were like, hey, we actually started this new thing for 5th and 6th graders. And in fact, Pastor Austin, he was back the 5-6 director back then. And they're like, hey, it's just getting started and we need you to work with 5th graders. I'm like, that's not what I thought I was getting into.
Didn't sign up for that, but there you are.
I said that I would do it, so I guess that's what I'm going to do. And I fell in love with the boys. And at the time, I was going to a local college, Embry-Riddle. And while I was approaching graduation and had been serving with them for a couple of years, I felt God call me to stay and finish with them. And so the reason I've been doing it is because God brought me here to do it.
That's amazing. it's been such a blessing for them. I know that. And for the ministry in general, youth ministry is not just one of those things where you can sit down and really have good heart-to-hearts every time. Usually there's a lot of craziness and distraction and all that.
Yeah.
So I can imagine over 7 years, you've probably seen some craziness. You've probably seen some weirdness.
Yeah.
Can you just share something to our audience right now, all of those watching online that are going, what's it like to be a youth leader? You've been in the trenches. You've been doing it. Tell us something weird or crazy you've seen.
Well, okay. I mean, all the middle school years were just continual weirdness through all of it, and social awkwardness and all of that. But I think last year we had this event where we bolted on a bunch of casters to some donated couches, some of which started broken already, some of which were pulled out of dumpsters, some of which were fresh and new. And we set up a cone course in our parking lot.
Okay.
And then we put a bunch of helmets on students. And then we had them push each other around the racetrack and see who could cross the finish line first.
Couch racing.
Yeah, couch racing.
Wow.
It's best. You've never heard of it?
Couch racing is not what I would think to do with the couch, but youth ministry, that's what you do, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I've spent 15 years as a youth pastor at various churches, and couch racing was a new one for me when that came as a suggestion. I'm like, well, let's see how this goes. And the most exciting part for me is that we didn't have any injuries.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, right?
Yes. And we had students like watching out for each other and picking each other up. And we piled those couches high, but they had helmets, so they were safe.
They had helmets.
Yes.
So that's good. And there's craziness. There is other awkwardness, weirdness, all the things that come with just a middle schooler or high schooler.
Yeah.
Man, what about the fulfilling conversations? What about life change that you've seen within those students? Obviously, those are the things that keep you coming back and why you've done it for that long. Do you have any examples of students that you've seen just really grow closer to God over your time with them?
Yeah. Tons. Because as youth leaders, we don't just show up on Wednesday to our service and see them at church on Sundays. Like, we try to live life with them. Like, we go to their sporting events and we see how school's going, and we're at birthday parties and life events and funerals, and just being in people's lives for 6 going on 7 years now. You get to be there in moments where they need to know that God loves them. And there's been many students who, like, we were just talking with one of our students who was applying to be part of our student leadership, which is a spiritual formation group. And she had an injury that took her out of sports. And over that time, she intentionally chose to step in and grow closer with God because she realized that sports had become an idol in her life.
Wow.
And that's something that, she's an incredible leader, and she's decided to chase Jesus, and she wants to be held accountable, especially because she's going to be re-entering. Her injury has been long, and the rehab has been long, but she's going to be cleared now in like 10 days. And as she steps back into sports, she wants to be held accountable so that she can continue to grow and be a light in her school. And
That's
we could tell so many stories.
So many stories
like that.
on that. Yeah. Well, Kyle, thanks for joining us. Thanks for hopping on. Thanks for coming on, even though I'm a Padres fan and I'm wearing this jersey today.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let you get to service because you got to go sit with your students as well.
Yeah, and keep them in line now that they're awake.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on,
thanks,
man.
Todd.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, well, we are less than a minute away from our service starting, and want to let you know just a quick wrap-up of what we discussed today. We have so many things with our Next Gen Ministries, all of our school-age stuff starting this week on our Prescott location, Prescott Valley location. If you know somebody who is in that age group, send them over. We'd love to have them. But we are going to be joining in and watching our service live at our Prescott location, and we're just so grateful that you're joining with us. Thank you, online family, for being a part of what we do here at Heights. And we're going to get started about 20 seconds. We're going to send you into that message, into that service. So thank you so much for being with us, and you guys are awesome.
Welcome
Good morning, Heights family. 9:30. How we doing this morning? All right, you guys made it to the service on time. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. Well, it's so good to see all of you. An extra special welcome to you if you are new, and a welcome to those of you joining us online as well. We are excited to have each and every one of you with us this morning. My name is Joanne. I'm one of the worship leaders here at Heights, and if you were here last week, you heard us chat about this, but we just wanted to mention it again real quick. You might look up here and maybe you play an instrument or you sing and you're like, I wonder what it would be like to be part of their team. Well, we have an interest night coming up August 14th at 6 p.m. right out here in the lobby. You'll find the registration page both on the app and online. And we're just going to spend just a little bit of time just chatting about what it looks like to be part of our team, not just from a physical and like practical standpoint, but also just the heart behind what we do. Obviously, we're here to worship Jesus, but there's also a lot more to it. And so we would just love, no matter what instrument you play, we would love to chat with you. Even if it's an instrument you don't see up here on stage, you never know how it might be used. So please come to that interest night. We especially have a need for bass players and drummers, but again, no matter what instrument you play, we hope that you will show up and just come hear a little bit more about what we do. Well, with that, would you stand, and we're just going to spend some time worshiping together this morning.
Will bow down. Every chain will break as broken hearts declare His praise. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring in power and fighting our battles. Every knee
for all of time, there have been things that have come and gone. There have been kings and queens, rulers, kingdoms, generations. Just all kinds of things have risen and fallen, and they've come and passed away. And yet we have a God who has remained the same. He has always been and always will be, and he never changes. And we're going to sing a new song this morning called Holy Forever. And similar to the song that we introduced a little while back, it talks about 1,000 generations. The very same God that we stand here and lift our worship to today, here in this room as one body, is the same God that was worshiped in the old times of the Bible. And he's the same God that will be worshiped by all of the generations that are to come. And that's such an incredible thought, that we get to do the very same thing to the very same God that has been done for all of time. Isn't that incredible? So with one voice, let's sing these words.
Generations falling down in worship to sing the song of ages to the Lamb, and all who've gone before us and all who will believe will sing the song of ages to the Lamb. Your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name stands above them all.
that you're so good today. And God, we thank you that your goodness doesn't stop there. God, we thank you that we can show up in this room no matter what our week has held, no matter what we know is coming in this next week. And God, we can worship you. We can lift our voices to you because we know that you are good. God, we thank you that we get to join with 1,000 generations for all of time and worship one God, the same God who has been on his throne and will be on his throne for the rest of eternity. And we thank you for that truth today. We thank you that you are that one thing that we can count on. And God, that we can have joy in the midst of every circumstance because of who you are. We love you. Thank you for loving us. In Jesus' name, amen. You can have a seat.
Well, good morning, church. Welcome to our online location. We welcome you from wherever you are, wherever you happen to be, wherever maybe you're just listening or maybe you're actually watching, whatever it happens to be. Welcome to you. We are glad you're with us. Baghdad, Paulden, we're so glad that you guys are out there and you're still going and doing what you do and creating space. And 9:30, well done. You made it at 9:30. From what I can tell, everybody's makeup's done. Nobody looks too ragged, like the hour got you too bad, but no, welcome, glad that you're here. And whether you're online or you're here in person, I just want to say welcome to those of you that, you're new to Heights, right? You're new to the family. And what I mean by that is you're even still in the dating phase, right? And maybe you've been around and you have had that first date and you were like, well, it wasn't as bad as I thought they would be. And you gave us a second date and you're like, man, their breath doesn't smell. And so, you're just figuring it out. Welcome to you. We're glad you're here. We're glad that you are choosing to be with the family. Those of you that you are here, Heights is home. Welcome to you. We have things as a family that we just get to do, right? That we didn't choose the family language, by the way. God chose that for us. God calls us sons and daughters, and he talks about adoption, that we're adopted. He calls himself Father, and so we're just living that out together. And one of the ways we get to live that out, and we talk about it every week, is through generosity. But I want to make some connections for you today that wrapped around generosity. The first one is that it's an act of obedience, right? That when God saves us, he saves all of us, right? He wants all of you. He wants every part of your life. And guess what? That includes your wallet, right? That God wants you to step in, and you'll see ways up here of how to do that. You can do it in person. You'll figure out a way that works for you. But here's the reality, that God wants our entire life centered around him. And if you've done this, right, if you've gone, hey, I'm going to follow this ancient rhythm of 10%, and you may be like, man, 10%, I can't even start. I'm at 1%. It doesn't matter. It's the action of the heart, right? It's the stepping in and being obedient. And we let God figure out where he takes that. But here's what I want you to catch, right? So we're here right now, 9:30, right? Online, there's people joining live that would say that Heights is home and they're part of the family. So the family, near and far. Last service, we had Prescott Valley and we had the 8 o'clock, right? And so all of this, last night, Prescott Valley Park Collective. And so the family, right, we're all just living out obedience together. Here's what I want you to see. That when we step as in a family and we do this, right, we're in the fall season. And what happens in fall is a whole bunch of ministries in our family kick off. Right? And you may not attend them. You may not really have much to do with them. But I want to connect your act of generosity to a life change that's going to happen this fall in one of those ministries. What you do, your obedience, my obedience as a family, when we collect that together, what it allows us to do is as a family, we get to step in and see ministry happen. We get to step in and follow the mission of God. And here's what's beautiful, right? That we may not know all the stories, but you had a part in those stories. We may not meet people who are online and are part of the family, but together we all had a part in building into those stories. And so I just want to encourage you, what you do in these moments when we talk about generosity, it's so much bigger than we can ever imagine. The reach is so much further. And so when you hear stories of life change, celebrate them like you were a part, because you were. You, me, our family get to do some pretty cool stuff on behalf of God who's empowered us. And it's beautiful. And so thank you for what you do. I can't wait to hear more stories, right? Another thing we do as a family is, if you haven't been around, we do what we call series, right? So what a series is, it's just a collection of talks that we try to take the theme of them and put them together so that they make sense. And if you've been here over the summer, you know we've been in a series called Gravity, which has to do with the book of Philippians, and we're walking through Philippians right now. We're in chapter 4. We've been going somewhat verse by verse through the whole thing, and I just want to remind us before we start that this concept of gravity is that as physically gravity holds you centered to the ground so that you don't become unsteady, right? That is what Jesus does for your life. That the whole book of Philippians is putting Jesus front and center and the difference Jesus makes to your life. To the point that Paul makes some outlandish big statements, right? That everything else is lost just to know Jesus. Why? Because he figured out that Jesus is what holds him anchored and center. And last week we had the privilege of Pastor Austin, right? You guys, you know what's crazy? He's the youth pastor, right? You guys love Pastor Austin? The answer is yes right now, because he's sitting right there. Good job. Good job. Well done. Well done. Just thought I'd help you out, just in case. Just in case. Don't know what kind of morning it's been. But here's what's beautiful, right? That Austin, to know that Austin is speaking truth to our students. To know that Austin has a voice into what we're caring about and how we're caring. But you know what I love about Austin? He does all that. But you know what I love is you'll always find him with students. He loves students. You'll find him on campuses with students. You'll find him outside of church hours with students, right? It's kind of like the Pied Piper, right? Maybe we should rename him the Pied Piper. But here's what's beautiful. Can we just pause for 1 second? This is off my notes. I don't know how you feel about growing up, but I felt like I had it hard as a teenager. You guys, you have it way harder than I did. Life is way harder now. And I don't know what that does to you, but church, can I ask you to please pray for our students? Please pray for our student ministry. Pray for our student leaders. Pray for Austin and Sarah as they lead. Please pray. It's that important. And can we give them a huge hand because they're here at 9:30? And so we're in a series on gravity, and you heard Austin talk about last week this idea of peace and our mind and how what we think about can change our life. And so Paul's been building, right? And there's this theme of joy and there's this theme of peace all the way through what he's been writing. And it really builds in chapter 4. And I don't know about you today. I don't know how you enter the room. I don't know what you carry into the room. I don't know what situations you're in. But I'm guessing that some of us in the room or on the online location or different locations, like I'm guessing that there's things you are carrying today that you would prefer to not be in that situation. You would prefer to move out because it's uncomfortable. Because it's overwhelming. Because you can't see how this works out. And inside of you, there's just this, man, I don't like this situation. I don't like where God's got me. And I just want it to be different. And then on the other side, you've got people in the room. You are the movers and the shakers. You know what I mean? You thought you were retiring and you work harder now than you did when you said you were retiring. You got more on the go now because you got bored, right? But there's achievers, right? There's people that are just driven that, man, I am going to change my life. And what happens is you get into this motion, this rhythm where I'm gonna gain more, and I'm gonna take the next hill and the next hill and the next hill. You ever notice how there's always another hill? And where you are is not satisfying, right? So I gotta move beyond here and I gotta get to there. And when I get to there, I'm gonna achieve and I'm gonna have what I want. I have a sentence, a thought to kind of work around today. And it's this idea of what we assume about, right? We make this assumption based on some form of truth that we have. But we assume that what we want will bring satisfaction. We live with an assumption. That if I'm in a situation I don't like, well, if I get out of it, then there'll be some form of satisfaction. There'll be some form of steadiness. There'll be some form of I'm okay. There'll be some form of contentment. And on the other side, you got the person who's always pushing, right? Always moving, always going to the next thing, always bigger, better, always I got to get the next, right? You make great athletes. You exhaust the rest of us. But what happens is if it goes unchecked, what's actually happening is we have an assumption that if I drive, my want is this, I got to get to the next thing, and when I get there, I'm going to be satisfied. I'm going to find some form of happiness. I'm going to find some form of contentment. And Paul speaks into this after challenging us with our thoughts and our mind in chapter 4 of Philippians. Verse 10, he says this, I rejoiced greatly in the Lord. So I had great joy. I had this move of emotion, right? I had this move of celebration that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. And at first glance, it seems like, wow, they sent a gift to Paul, and that gift changed his status, if you like, of his monetary status, and that provided for him this joy. You could say that for Paul, his joy was determined by what he'd received. And what's actually happening culturally is they believe that the joy is actually connected to a renewal of friendship. That when you gave a monetary gift like that in this culture, what it did was it was a declaration of friendship. And so he's actually celebrating. He's actually saying, man, I've got this great joy that's come. I'm rejoicing because of the friendship that's been renewed. And if we're not careful, what can happen is you could walk away and go, okay, Paul was moved by what had happened in his situation. And so he catches himself and he says, I am not saying this, verse 11, I am not saying this because I am in need. For I have learned, so if you got a physical Bible, you got your Bible app open and you can highlight or circle, here you go, you ready? I have learned, circle the word learned, to be content, circle be content, whatever the circumstances, circle whatever the circumstances. I have learned. Now that should encourage you. Right? Because that means that Paul didn't just meet Jesus and he had this and you don't. Right? It should encourage us that what he's saying is that like anything in life, if you're going to learn something, there's a process to learning it. There's an engagement to learn it. Like if you think of if you were an athlete and you had a coach, right? That coach probably pushed you, but you had to show up to practices. And when you got to practice, that coach would tell you intentional things. And what would you do? By repetition, you would learn. Or if you've sat in an educational facility, right? Like what's happening is someone is imparting something to you. And what Paul's saying is I've learned to be is a state of being, to be content. That word content culturally is loaded. So if you take it from the original context it was in, there was a group called the Stoics. And what the Stoics believed is that you could attain through hard work, through your own achievement, and by really, really, really pushing through, you could achieve a status of life that you were self-sufficient from anybody else. That you could get to a point where your happiness was solely dependent on you. That the goal of life was to get to a point where you were able to go, I don't need anybody or anything because I have provided it all for myself. That was the goal of life. That was the aim of the Stoics. Doesn't sound much different. We haven't come very far, have we? Where everybody's trying to get theirs, right? If I just get enough money, then I don't have to worry about anybody else. If I just get the right amount saved up and I just, get everything, get the house I want, the car I want, the picket fence I want that keeps everybody out that I don't want in, whatever it happens to be. The culturally around us, there's this drive of if you just attain what you need, you'll find this level of happiness and you'll find this level. That's what the Stoics believed. Well, Paul uses a word. The word content actually means self-sufficient. And so he's speaking into the culture and he's going, hey, I want you to understand, I have learned how to be self-sufficient. Which the culture of today would have gone, wait, how did you figure this out? Right? And then he says, whatever the circumstances. Well, that takes a little turn. Now he's talking about his experience of life. Now he's talking about the things he's been through. So he's learned this secret, if you like. He's learned it to be self-sufficient by what he's been through. I just want to read for you for a moment from 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 23. This is what Paul has been through when he's writing to the church in Corinth. Verse 23, are they servants of Christ? I am out of my mind to talk like this. I am more. I have worked much harder, been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely, been exposed to death again and again. Sounds like fun, right? 5 times I received from the Jews 49 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. Okay, my boy, Paul, he needs to stay off of boats. Like, I got shipwrecked once, I'm not going back, right? Shipwrecked 3 times. 3 times. Like, I want you to get a picture, right? One of the times he gets shipwrecked, he's in the open sea, hugging a piece of wood, right? Hugging a box, whatever he happened to have, just to survive. This is the life context that he is gaining, the education, if you like, that he's having. Verse 26, I have been constantly on the move. I have been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. That pretty much is everything and everywhere he's been in danger. I have labored and toiled and have often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst. I have often gone without food. I have been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches. And so all of that is the learning ground, the experience ground for what he's about to tell you. So back in chapter 4, then in verse 12, he says this, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. He goes, I understand. When I was in need, I was shipwrecked. When I was in need, I was beaten to the point of almost dying. When I was in need, I was getting pelted with stones. When I was in need, that word need is this idea to lack to a point of poverty, right? And so what he's getting at is that, hey, I've been on that extreme, but what I want you to catch is this. He's also been on the other extreme. That word that he uses for plenty is the idea of it abounds, right? That it's above and beyond. He's saying, I've been on this end and I've been on this end. And what I want you to catch is this. You ever had an experience like it's people have built it up like it's going to be the best experience of your life, right? Or you take somebody, this is even more annoying, okay? You take somebody and you're like, oh, this is going to be the best. I can't wait for them to experience this. And you get there and they complain and they only see what's not good and they're dissatisfied. And you're like, why did I bring you? I should have shipwrecked you, right? But the idea is that what Paul's getting at is he goes, hey, you can actually have an awful lot and not be satisfied. You know that, right, church? You know, you can give your whole life to chase something that you think will bring satisfaction. You can attain whatever you want. It doesn't mean that when you get there, you'll actually have peace and find yourself in a spot of contentment. I found this week that was interesting. You know, the opposite of contentment I always thought was more. That just to strive for more, but it's not. The opposite of contentment is discontentment. Right? It's being unsatisfied. I wonder if, and don't raise your hands, please, but if we were to do a survey of people in the room who are married, how satisfied you are in your marriage. What's the level of discontent? That if you're in a phase where you're not married, how satisfied you are in the phase of not being married. That if you're in higher education, how satisfied you are. Because doesn't it work this way that everybody's trying to get to the next stage? You ever notice that? Oh, I just can't wait till, I got a middle schooler, right? She's terrified of middle school today. You know what I know in a little bit? She'll be ready for high school. And when she's in high school, she's going to be ready for college. And when she's in college, she's going to be ready for a job. And when she gets out of college, she's going to be ready for where she's going to live next. Right? And it's just this constant chase. And Paul goes, hey, I've achieved all of that and I've had nothing. And then he says this, I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. That learned the secret in the original language. It is the secret of a deity. That's a secret of God. Y'all, you're getting a free education today from Paul, my man Paul, who has learned the hard way. We read his list of experience, right? Learned the hard way, the secret for you today to live a content life. And we get it for free from his experience. He paid the pain. He goes, I've learned it. It's a secret from God that I've been given. Whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want, I can do all this through him, through Jesus, who gives me strength. You ever see this verse used in a weird way? You know what I mean? The guy at the gym, he's got the tattoo on his arms. So that when he lifts the weight, it actually like swells, you know? He's like, oh, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Not sure this verse means that. If that's you, I apologize. Kinda. I hope you laugh when you look in the mirror tomorrow and you're like, yeah. You can tell I don't go to the gym. I mean, you ever see the person they're about to go out the plane, right? Skydiving. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's how we treat this, right? I mean, you heard Joanne talk about the worship team. Some of you are sitting there like, I've never played the drums before, but I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Please sign up. I want to see your audition. Right? We have a weird grabbingness because here's the problem. The context is key. And the context is contentment. The context is that we would not go through this life constantly wishing we weren't where we were and constantly wanting something else and constantly trying to fight for something else. The context is key because the context is even in this, I'm okay. I'm content. I'm completely satisfied. It reminds me of Baymax. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. Are you 100% satisfied? And he can't shut down till he gets there, you know? Like I hear that voice. Are you satisfied? Are you content? Because the secret is I can do all this. What is the this? Whether I'm in a time of need and I'm in a time of hurt and I hate the situation I'm in and I wish for something different, or I've got so much and I'm blessed beyond blessed and everything's working out the way I wanted. Paul goes, none of that matters to me. I am content. Remember that word self-sufficient? This is where it differs from the Stoics. Because the Stoics said it's all inside of me to be self-sufficient. And what Paul says is, no, it is Christ's sufficiency that makes me self-sufficient. That it's in Jesus and Jesus alone is what Paul's saying. That in Jesus is where I find my contentment. And when I'm in Jesus, when I'm reliant on Jesus, guess what happens? When I'm reliant on Jesus, it doesn't matter what's happening around me. The strength he gives me allows me to stay steady. There is strength for you to be steady today. Remember we talked about gravity, how it holds you in place. What Paul's getting at here is that in Jesus, you are held steady no matter what stage you're in. That those stages don't affect you. That you can have satisfaction, you can be steady where you are. You realize that discontentment makes you unsteady. Discontentment is about, I gotta move, I gotta go, I can't be. When I am anchored in Jesus, I am steady, I am unmoved. Why? Because Jesus is unmoved. Why does Jesus hold me steady? Because he's not worried about what's happening around me. He knows who he is. In fact, the imagery we get from the Bible is that he's sitting down in heaven right now. That's how worried he is about everything happening in your life. He's like, I already won. I already paid for it. It's not caught me by surprise. That when you're down here and you're on that little hamster wheel and you're like, man, I'm going to achieve and I'm going to get and I'm going to, God, Jesus, I really do think he laughs at us, by the way. He's like, you just go, slugger. You're going to realize it's not satisfying when you get there. And when you get there, I'll be ready to show you what contentment really is. There's strength in Jesus, so I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Well, what is that strength? He gives you strength to remember who you are. Because who you are is a child of God. Who you are is loved. Who you are is forgiven. Who you are is free. Who you are is redeemed. Who you are is a citizen of heaven. Who you are is his kid. And none of that changes when everything around you is changing. That doesn't change. That's where the satisfaction comes from, is I know who I am. So guess what? When that person gets in your whatever social space and they begin to talk those words over you, guess what? Those words don't define you. Why? Because Jesus defines you. And I find my satisfaction in Jesus. So guess what? You throw at me what you want to throw at me, because why? It doesn't change who I am, because I didn't make who I am. Jesus made me who I am. You can drain my bank account and it doesn't change who Jesus is. It doesn't change the ground I'm on. It doesn't change how steady it is. You can fire me from your job. It doesn't change who I am. I'm still loved. I'm still a child of the King. I'm still taken care of. They're still unchanging. Nothing in the future can change based on what happens here. And that's where he goes. I'm content. I'm satisfied. So you can throw me in a shipwreck. I'll be satisfied hugging the box. Oh, you can put me at the King's table. I'll be satisfied. Why? Because my satisfaction in life doesn't come from the King's table or the box. It comes from Jesus. He goes, that's the secret. That's the secret. It doesn't come from you. It comes from being reliant on the person of Jesus. And if we're really honest, we hate that. Because as humans, I want to be my own God. As humans, I want to be my own sufficiency. And Paul goes, I've learned the secret, and it's not me, it's him. You know the last thing that strength does? Strength makes you sing when you shouldn't. In Acts chapter 16, Paul and Silas, they're in jail. It's midnight. And by the way, sometimes we think Paul wrote from the Hilton. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he's just chilling at the Hilton, looking out at the lazy river. Paul was in jail. More than likely, it stank where he was. It was stinky. It was uncomfortable. And he finds himself in another jail in Acts chapter 16 with Silas. And it's midnight. And I don't know about you, but I don't sing worship songs at midnight very often. It's just not my jam. And if I was in prison, I think I'd be more worried about trying to get out of prison. I think I'd be more worried about proving my innocence. I think I'd be more worried about trying to figure it out, right? Self-sufficient. And it says that Paul and Silas begin to sing. And as they sing, earthquakes happen. And their chains fall off. Okay, just picture it for a second. How wild does it have to get in that worship service for chains to break off? Like you're like, ah! And it says that the chains fall off. But they're in prison. I can do all this. What is this? I can be content right here in the worst circumstance, and his strength will give me a song. My singing is not determined by my circumstances because I'm content in Jesus. That's what he's saying, church. So here you go. You ready? We started this out with the situation you're in, you have a want. Right? You either want to get out because where you're at today just is super uncomfortable. You never chose it. You hate it. And then for others, you're just a hamster on the wheel, man. You got your next want, your next thing that's going to give you happiness. What's your want today? I don't. If you're new to the family, you're going to learn something real quick. You can have a church answer. It's just the lame answer. You know what I mean? The one you should say because you're in church. Yeah, we don't like those. But what we do like is the posture of the heart. What is it that I really want today that I think will make me content tomorrow? What is it in my heart of hearts that I'm banking on to give me satisfaction? And now I'm going to ask you to do something, because I can do all this through Christ who gives me strength. We're going to sing with all of that in the room, all those wants. And we're going to sing together, and we're going to have a holy moment of surrendering it. A holy moment of centering back on the person of Jesus as our cornerstone for life. That even in this, I can be content, and even in this, I can be content. Would you pray with me, God? We come before you. We're so grateful for who you are. God, thank you for being our God today. Thank you for loving us unconditionally. Thank you for the way that you have poured out your Spirit to us. That God, in any and every situation, we're never alone. God, in any and every situation, you are rock solid. You are unchanging, have not moved. You will be the same tomorrow. God, it is us that change. It is us that seek. It is us that chase wants and desires. It is us that can't stand the shipwreck moments. God, would you meet us there today, and would you remind us that it is in Jesus and Jesus alone that we can stand. God, would you help us as we lift our voices to praise you? Would you help us cement in our hearts and our souls that where we find rest, where we find peace, where we find satisfaction, where we find our contentment is in Jesus. Would you allow us to lay our wants to the side, to surrender those, even as we sing about you, our cornerstone. We love you. Thank you for saving us. And everybody said, amen.
stand and let's respond in worship.
When God looks at us, he doesn't see us, he says Christ in us.
Church, do me a favor, go ahead and have a seat. There's something we want to let you know about that's super important to the life of our family, but also important in our community. Our local outreach has several initiatives that we chase. And one of those is that there would be enough families for kids. And so on your way in, you probably received one of these. And I just want to talk about this for a moment because it's so important to our community. That for my wife and I, entering this conversation and what that looked like years ago was making a decision. And the decision was, we'll be part of the solution. And for us, those of you that know us, we entered into foster care with 2 little girls. Our youngest was 23 hours when she showed up at our house. And today they are 7th graders and 5th grader. So, yeah. And my wife was supposed to be here to tell you all the important stuff. But our 21-year-old gets married in 14 days. And so she got invited to celebrate with her in Phoenix. And so she is there doing that. She's having a party. And I was like, it's okay, baby. I'll go to work. It's okay. You don't worry about it. But here's what's important. In the process, we just began to pray. And we had no clue. I had no clue, you guys, that our family would grow from 4 to 6. That these 2 little girls that began with foster care, that 2.5 years later we would adopt, that now I can't imagine our family. Hear this, I can't imagine our family without them. Our family wouldn't be the same in a great way. And it's this moment that we have in our state, right? There are 25 to 30 kids per day being moved into care. Let that sit for a second. 25 to 30 kids. And I would have been the guy, I'll be honest with you. You ready? I would have been the guy years ago to stand on this stage and go, every single one of you needs to become a foster parent. Every single one of you needs to adopt. And if you do that, we solve the crisis. Having done foster care, not every one of you should do it. Having adopted, not every one of you should do it. But you know what we should be? Every single one of us should be part of the solution. Every single one of us should be asking God, how do you want to use me? How do you want to use my life circumstances to be part of the solution, providing families for kiddos in our community? I heard a number today, I didn't know this till today, that just in our area, 30 families would put kids in homes. If we had 30 families that step forward, that would provide the care that's needed for our community. That seems doable. I don't know about you, that seems doable, right? And we're linked arms. This is a beautiful moment. We're linked arms with other churches in the area. This is not just a Heights family's got to solve it. This is the church. And so I was asking Colby, what are some practical things that are going on? How could people catch how practical this is? And she said, well, I have a couple of stories that have happened within the last months. She said, one is of a family who were foster parents. And the foster parents had a family member pass away out of state, and they needed to go to the memorial. But the problem is foster kids can't leave the state. So a respite family, respite is 48 hours of care, respite family stepped in, took their kiddos for those 48 hours and got to love on them and take care of them while the family went out for the family memorial. Respite care is a part of the foster system that is just someone saying, hey, I can do short term. I can look after kiddos short term to give foster parents a break or to help them in a situation like that. Another story, there was a couple that got their kiddos back, and then mom had some health complications and she passed away. And then dad was left with the kids and he needed some help. And so we got to do things like provide dressers and beds and diapers and wipes and other support around that. But sometimes families for kids is as simple as, could you provide beds? Could you help provide the physical needs? Could you be a part of that? And so here's what I'm asking, okay? Number one, would you take this, put it on your fridge, and every time you see it, would you pray for the kids in our community, our state? would you look at this and pray for the many, many people and agencies involved? But what I'm asking too today is this: would you pray about the back of this, where you'll find a little QR code that next weekend there's a meeting, and I'm gonna make it real easy for you. It's an information meeting. It is not you saying yes to anything. It is just you showing up to go, could I learn more? Could I learn what might maybe find my place? So between now and next weekend, put it on your fridge, because I know you're gonna eat, okay? This is your reminder, right? And what's it a reminder of? That you're gonna pray for the kids, but you're also gonna pray for your heart, your soul, and God, how do you want me? What part do I play in being a solution to what's happening in our community? How do I love these kiddos well? Okay, second thing I got for you is I need you to pray about, God, what community do you have me to step into? And what I mean by that is this, that rows are good, this is fine. Circles are way better because we go heart to heart, right? And the way we do that here at Heights is groups. And so groups launch next weekend. So you can step in and sign up next weekend, but what I need you to do is pray. Let God show you, let God provide for you. And so pray, God, what community do you have me to step into? So next week you'll be able to sign up for groups, be able to sign up during the group's launch, but between now and then just pray, God, what do you have for me? Last thing I got is this. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you have the best day from this point forward. I hope that you find that you're just satisfied, whatever you do. Hopefully you don't get shipwrecked. It's a little hard in Arizona, but maybe. But whatever it is, I just hope that you have the best day. I love you guys so much. If you need prayer, there's people down the front. Those of you on the online location, I will be there as soon as I can for a chat with Todd and wrap up with some bonus content. Heights Church, love you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Well, hello, online fam. Welcome back to our chat. Welcome back to this portion of the show. We hope you enjoyed the service. Hey, if you are sticking around for this and wondering, hey, where is Pastor Owen? If you weren't here last week, Pastor Owen's last week was last week. So he is done now. And so we have a rotation of different people that will be hosting online with you. If you have questions about Bible studies that were being held online, those plans for those are coming. We'll let you know about those. But we're going to continue our conversation now with some bonus content with Pastor John. But want to hear from you guys. If you have any questions for Pastor John, things that you want to know, to dig deeper from the sermon, please throw them in the chat. Those are the questions that I want to use to throw at him. As I said earlier, you definitely got the B team going now. Steep drop off from Owen to me, and so I need your questions to help ask John the questions that you want to hear. So would love to hear from you guys in the chat. Anything that you want to hear, follow up from his message. Incredible sermon, and so really excited to hear those questions that you guys have about that message. So well, welcome.
Hey, buddy.
You're running today.
Hey, buddy, we made it.
Good. It seems like you need probably the run to keep you awake now that you have a full nother service to preach. How are you feeling about that?
Weird. It's so weird. I was standing in the last one, and I'm like, because your body has rhythms and whatever, and my body was like, okay, we just do it again. You can feel the fatigue of it, and I'm like, oh wait, I've got to stay here because we've got another one coming.
Yeah, and so this shift, for those of you online family that you're wondering, what are we talking about? The rhythm usually is we have a Saturday night service at our Prescott Valley location, and then we had two services at our Prescott location, and after that second service was when we would do this online portion. Well, now this week is the first week of 3 services, and so not only the fatigue of preaching 3 services, but on a Sunday with the Saturday night before, but then online piece in between, and then heading over. So hope you're holding on. Hope you're doing all right.
Good.
We talked with Austin a little bit before the service, and we got to talk about youth and how there's a youth seating section in there. And we told our audience that we expected the youth seating section to be rambunctious and crazy, but usually they're snoring. And so we were hoping that this shift in time would help. So from your perspective on stage, were they a little more awake today in the service?
They were.
They were.
All right.
It could be that I looked right at him a couple of times and talked to him
sit
too.
up a
So
little
yeah,
straight,
you like nobody wants to be asleep when you're getting talked to, but
That's good.
no, they were good. They were good today. Yeah.
Good deal. Well,
Austin might have been asleep. No, I'm just
Austin
kidding.
might have been. Oh, that's some good. That's some good information for us to know next time we have him as a guest.
He's
on
got
here.
that hat, right? So who knows what's
Yeah,
happening.
that's true.
So
That's true. So we handed these out in the service and talked about this foster and adopt idea, and amazing message. And if we have some questions in here in the chat, we're going to be throwing those at you. But I think for me, more of the questions I have, I think you left the sermon in a great place. So more of the questions I have, you talked about the foster and adopt world and how it's not for everyone. How did you know when it was for you? How do you
man.
know if there's people out there right now that are kind of on the edge going, I'm not sure. What was it for you where you realized, yeah, this is something that I want to step into and maybe could encourage somebody who's on the edge?
yeah, that's a great question. So for me, it's interesting. It started with Cindy praying for purpose. So we'd hit a point in our family where I think our girls one was in middle school maybe. And so she just felt like her season as a mom was shifting.
Okay.
And so she just started praying like, okay, God, what's my purpose in this next season, and how do I? So it was really her beginning to pray that, and then all these opportunities started coming our way. We started finding out about foster care, and so we understood the overwhelming, crisis in our backyard, so to speak. And then we were doing youth at the time, and we'd run into foster kids or adopted kids and hear their stories, and there was always just this tug that started going, how do we help? How do we be part of this? And we'd always said we wouldn't adopt, and through all these circumstances, and then like random stuff, like I was saying as a youth pastor, I'm like, I don't have time to go do 13 weeks of classes. Like God's going to have to figure that out. And like literally with our girls, they got dropped off and we did the classes at home because they were in such need for us to take them.
Yeah.
That they were like, we'll figure out how to do a home training with you guys. And it worked for this, so all these things that
That's
I was
incredible.
like, I don't know if I can,
Yeah.
I don't know if God just stripped away. And then another one was, just the whole idea of, I don't know if I could love somebody else's kids the way I love my kiddos. And I remember, I feel like our littlest Farah, she taught me what love looks like.
Wow.
2 a.m, somebody else's kid, and she's screaming. And it's like,
Yeah, you gotta.
I'm like, I didn't get myself in this mess. Like, not my, and learning how to love in that moment and how selfish my love really is.
Right.
That's probably been the journey that's just been phenomenal, loving as our family has grown, and then just, joys you don't expect.
Yeah,
Which has been cool.
That's kind of my next question in this is, and I think when we think about foster and adopt, obviously you're blessing that kid, you're blessing the need for that family and that kid and all of that. But what are the blessings that you received from that? Obviously the thought is, man, we want to bless this kid, and that's what it's about, and love them. But you kind of led into it already. But man, what are some of the other things that you got? Usually those are the situations when we get into serving, we go, I'm here to serve others, and you leave going, man, I got more than I poured out.
Yeah.
What are some of those things?
Honestly, one lately has been, they're just so fun, right? And like, I'm at a point where both my kids would be gone, like my bio kids, and so to still be like, there's days where I'm like, this doesn't feel like a blessing, right? But honestly, like, they're just so fun and bring so much life.
That's so
and
good.
and they're just beautiful, and the stuff we learn from them of, both of them have such tender spirits that there's times where we see their faith in them, and it's stuff like that you just don't quantify. Like, we went on vacation with them, and they're just beautiful humans, and we get to be with them, and so some of that, the entrustment, I think, realizing that foster and adopt is, you're actually taking in the whole family, and
there's times when that can feel really difficult, and then there's other times where it's like, man, it's a gift to be able to not only love on these kiddos, but know the impact that's having with parents.
Right.
And there's ups and downs with that, but
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And
yeah, they're fun.
they are fun. I've got to spend time with them through our youth ministry and kids ministries and all that stuff. I had a meeting at church this last week, and I got into the room early, and on the board, the big whiteboard, there was a message on there, and it was from John's kids to him. So when John showed up, I said, "Hey, there's a note for you here." I got to see just some of the joy that they bring you and some of the fun in that too.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things. But online, we have some of these magnets, and these were a reminder for the people in person to be praying. But man, we would love for you to join and pray with us. Praying. There's a list of things here of just ways that you can be praying, ways that you can be involved with that. And then again, if you're on the edge of going, man, maybe I need to be the one to adopt or I need to foster, we would love for you to get involved and to really just love our community through loving these kids and these families. And like you heard from Pastor John, it's not about just what you're giving, it's the things that God's going to bless you with as you step out as well.
And I would say along with that, the crisis that Arizona's in isn't unique to Arizona. And COVID was I didn't say it in this service, but COVID was horrific to foster parents. And so while the numbers are increasing in the state, foster parents are decreasing.
Wow.
And I would just say to online, wherever you happen to live, whatever community you're in, this is a conversation for the church, not just us. And I would just encourage you to reach out to organizations. If you need help with that, you can reach out to us and we can try and help you find organizations. But I would say find your place in your community too.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, with our new service structure, we do have to send you off to your next service.
Man.
You got to get ready for that one. But thanks for joining with us online.
Love you guys.
Yeah, awesome. Online, thank you guys for joining with us. Thank you for being a part of this family. We love you guys. If you want to connect with us during the week, you have prayer requests, anything like that, we would love to hear from you. You can submit those on our website. You can go through our website and anything that you need. As we're kind of in this transition of caring for you and continuing to care for you and letting you know when Bible studies are available and things like that for our online family, we are excited to keep you in the loop. But if you have questions, please let us know. Reach out, send us an email, and we would love to just make sure we get that to the right people and get you an answer. But thank you guys so much for being with us this morning, and we can't wait to see you next week at the new time, same time as this week. And we hope you have an amazing week.